Welcome back, everyone, to Let's Dissect of the Swapper. So, there were some mild technical issues in between episodes. I solved the puzzle I was on. I was right. The divots in the ceiling had something to do with it. You had to, back up, spawn the guy on one side, walk through the mist on the bottom, swap between places. It's a little difficult to describe without showing you. I sadly can't show you because that was part of the technical difficulty. Don't worry, you haven't missed much. I solved that puzzle, and immediately after solving it, Chalmers comes back on and says something to the effect of, she has no idea. Let's see if I can even do it in her accent. She has no idea the complexity of the device she's waving around so casually. It swaps souls about, she says, without ever giving consideration to whether or not there is even such thing as a soul. Which, because of the way they phrase that, leads me to believe, I've now got a theory that, who were the two doctors who were arguing? It was Chalmers and Dennett, I believe was the name. The ones arguing back and forth on the morality of using the swapper at all. I'm convinced that what's happened is, Dennett, at some point, in order to prove a point... also, I should clarify, random disclaimer. When I said I'm not going to look at, FAQs, I meant it, and oh my god, has that caused me a lot of pain in the past while. Because the other bit of that little technical difficulty, I said, oh man, I'm going to go solve this puzzle. I'll be back in 10 minutes. It's been 3 days. Not because of the puzzle I left you guys on, the puzzle that I had spent most of the previous episode on. That one that took me 20 minutes, and it's got the purple and the blue light and the red light all surrounding that one platform, and I was like, huh, well this is tough, well I'll go do something else. I went back to that one, took me 4 days to solve that frigging puzzle. I have been stuck on there forever. If I had just looked up an FAQ, I'd have been done in 5 minutes. We'd have been done with this series by now. Instead, that one puzzle has taken longer than all of my episodes combined. So anyway, I'm convinced that what happened is Dennett, in an attempt to, prove his point, used the swapper on Chalmers, or it might have even been Chalmers was doing it as part of an experiment, and I'm convinced they're both in there now, which is why she seems to be switching personalities so, dramatically, and it also explains why you see that static thing, and it also explains why earlier we saw her, quote-unquote, kill herself, except you never see the body go in, and just before she jumps in, there's that staticky thing that seems to hint whenever she's swapping personalities. So it would make sense that there's Chalmers and Dennett in there, and they can't agree over what to do anymore. So she says something to that effect. I went back to this puzzle and spent forever on it, only to find out that everything glitched. So you guys missed me solving that puzzle. I just now solved that nightmare puzzle that I've been stuck on for days. I'll explain in a second. I gotta tell you, the way I solved it, I wish I could be oh man, They really put a mind bender on this one. The way I solved it almost feels like I did something I wasn't supposed to. I'll explain it, but as far as I can tell, it's the only way, because I could not figure out anything else, and I'll take it. So, we pick up, 5 minutes after in game time, 5 minutes after I left you guys last, right after I've solved the puzzle.
You should have been able to detach the last panel by now. I hope we were right to trust those survival instincts.
Okay, so what I had to do... Feel free to go... I apologize that I spent an entire episode trying to solve this last time. If I had known how hard it was going to be, I would have skipped this right off the bat. Also, it's interesting that our dialogue is tied to the number of orbs I've got, not what I've actually accomplished, because... See, you need 93 orbs, which I've still got more than is necessary, which is interesting. But anyway, so you had to do these insane things, in case you've forgotten what this looked like, this area was red light, this area was purple light, this area was blue light, and from here back was purple light. And I tried everything. I tried, spawning people here, walking backwards up against this thing until they got here, and I was always one clone short, and I couldn't tell if you were supposed to spawn someone here and have them fall through the gap, or if you were supposed to spawn someone on the ceiling and then clone someone up to here and, swap to them. I had multiple times where I was standing on that bridge, it was open, I'd walk in, the bridges would slam shut fast enough that it killed my clone. But basically what I ended up having to do was I had a guy... I basically had someone here, someone on this one, but facing the right way. And I was down here, and I had to jump over this so that they backed up onto the switch, and then basically from here, create a clone across the map so that and then swap into that clone as they dropped into the hole. Like I said, it felt very cheap, frankly. It almost felt like I was cheesing the camera. It's just one of those... This game has been so well thought out so far, I have a hard time imagining that I would actually be able to screw with the game if they didn't want me to. I feel like they would have planned for that, so that was probably the actual answer. It was just, my god, did it take me forever to get there. I can't remember if I had any other brilliant gameplay... Oh, right, we're inside this giant watcher. I can't remember if I had any other brilliant gameplay realizations while I was away. I had that Dr. Dennett theory. But otherwise, I have just been trying to puzzle out this puzzle. That wasn't meant to come out that way. For days now, and it's been, frankly, kind of miserable, because I should point out, I don't know what it is about the game, but they've managed to design it in a way that everything feels very, very satisfying. For instance, I wanted to draw attention to this. They had to sit there and think about what sound this had to make, and instead of it being like a VoIP or a or something, it's this flick. It almost sounds like a camera shutter. But there's something so subtle about it, but there's also something very... There's such a it's such a hard noise to it. There's something very, viscerally satisfying about it. And I think that's on purpose. I'm flipping upside down, and I didn't mean to. Goodbye, clone. It just feels really good to swap. And like, spawning, and like, the puzzles are so satisfying to accomplish. Oh, I guess I was supposed to be upside down. The game just feels really good, which is one of the hardest things to design for. Because it basically requires testing over and over until you get it just right, and messing with these really intangible sensations and ideas. Oh, there's a door. The sad part is, as soon as I realized I could have opened this door this whole time, I was so badly tempted to come over here, open up the door, and go through, but I was like, no, that'll screw up the continuity of the filming and stuff like that, so the things I do for you people. The one called the Swapper manipulates minds by some method that is not persuasion or argument. Is it a weapon? It very well could be.
It's likely the Watchers aren't even aware they killed the crew, just as you're unaware when your immune system kills a virus. Once our fate was clear, Chalmers and I took steps to protect ourselves. No, the only way to survive is to land the station, to return them home.
So this stuff is blue, which makes me wonder if it serves a different purpose. Also, the Watcher has an outline over here. That's very interesting. But, I just love, again, all the little subtleties of the level design. The fact that the levels channel you so clearly into what it is you're supposed to do. Like, literally, this opens up. Look at this. This is designed to open up into the proper area and fundamentally point you at, hey, there is this blue stuff here. Except you come in on the ceiling almost automatically. Because I didn't even see a way to swap, no pun intended, to switch gravitational directions. So let's try this. Oh! Falling very, very quickly. Is it just blue because the air is blue? Because the air's got a very bluish tint to it, though the light cutting through it proves it's not the actual blue that would stop cloning. Yeah, I guess it's just, this is the normal white stuff, and it's just being tinted by this blue haze in the room. Very interesting. And again, all the hallways funnel down into the doorway, or they open up from the room you just came from. It's all... I hate to repeat myself over and over, but it's so well designed. Like, specifically that phrase, designed. It was all planned. And you can feel it. You can see it. You can... I was gonna say taste it, but, well... It's been a while since I last looked at my monitor. Interesting. What the hell am I looking at? It's curious, though, because monogon, trigon, entagon orb thing. They have the numbers there, which again, are still arbitrary, but it is interesting how the more you need, it almost seems like the gateway to the more difficult segments of the game. So theoretically, the puzzles I'm about to do should not be as hard as the ones I just spent, 4 freaking days on. Let's hope, because otherwise you guys are in for some very boring video. So. Also, again, it's part of that level design thing where, that I've commented on it earlier, but there is nothing in the room that you don't intrinsically need, except that isn't always true, because that actually threw me off in the room that I was having a really hard time with. Part of what kept throwing me was they had this, ledge that, you kind of saw it on my way out. I should have pointed out to it. There was a light coming off of it, and it's a light right above, and it's this ledge, it's a ledge if you're upside down, I should say. If you're upside down, it counts as another ledge, another area you can get to, except that there is no reason to go to that ledge. And it ends up being a kind of superfluous bit there, other than to, really show that your guy can't get out of there so that it cuts off one of your clones. Okay, so I can do that, but that's pointless. So it turned into, and I figured what it was is, part of what was also throwing me off was it made it seem like I was supposed to spawn someone. Oh, I think I see what I'm supposed to do. As far as I can tell. Oh, but I need to fall upside down. I see. So it's not quite as simple as I thought it was. But I think I'm on the right path. Anyway, so it looks like you were supposed to, be on the ceiling when you solved the problem, or at the very least you used it to get out. Except, no, I ended up not using it. You watched me leave the room and I didn't use it. It was very, And again, kudos to the game designers of, this is what I was talking about earlier, of the game is so satisfying, partially because, I was never frustrated. I was annoyed at how long it was taking me to beat it, but mostly because it's man, I want to get back to my videos, I want to go, I want to finish this series, I want to get back to work. It wasn't a sense of I'm so mad and this puzzle's stupid, and I think part of that was because it was never basing it off of my skills, it was basing it off of, I could do this forever, it was basing it off of, I could sit there and stare at it, and it was never a reflex test, it was never the game is cheating me. It was, no, you can figure this out, just take as long as you need. So, I think, can I spawn someone through? No, I'd have a, whoops. Why am I having trouble jumping that? That was one thing I did find out, is jumping's a little finicky in this game. Because as much as this is a platformer, it's not a precision platformer, so when you needed to do precision platforming, which I'm not convinced I ever needed to, but while I was under the impression that I needed to, it was, again, still not frustrating. That's not the right word, but it was very daunting. It was very, not even upsetting, just kind of, I have a very hard time coming up with a word to describe it, that, just the sensation of this mental wall of, I have no clue what to do. I wasn't mad, I was just, and, it never even felt like it's well, maybe there's more to try. I never felt, right on the edge of the puzzle. I always felt like I was going in blind the whole time, with, no clue what I was doing. Oh, I see, so I could spawn someone up here if I wanted to, which seems relevant. Okay, I think I see what I do. I think that into that. Oh, but I couldn't spawn someone here and have them fall. Oh, no, that should be fine, though. So I should be able to do that, then, yeah. See, that one I constantly felt like I'm oh, I'm close, I'm close. And now I'm gathering even more orbs, and I can't figure out why. On the downside, I kept thinking, part of the reason I stuck with that one for so long, because I honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that I was desperately trying not to use an FAQ, I'd have used one ages ago. Like, if I was just playing this for fun, or if it's one of those, like, if I had to write a review afterwards, instead of, filming the whole progress, I would have done it in a friggin' heartbeat. That was so difficult. I dislike you. This room. This one was fine. But part of the reason I was doing it is, like, I need those orbs, because this is the last place I can go. I need those orbs in order to finish off these solar panels. Except I'm now realizing that because I could have come through here any time, I just was purposely not. For your guys' benefit, there's actually a lot more orbs I can get, and it's... Again, very odd that I can get so many orbs, though I have to assume... It's funny, I thought at first that it had something to do with, backtracking and, like, collecting extra stuff if you wanted. I'm realizing now what it is to prevent exactly what I was doing. There's never a point where you're necessarily stuck. You have other options. You can go throw your brain at different puzzles, which is, again, massive kudos to the game designers. Well done, Facepalm. I'm very excited to see what else they're going to do. In under 32 hours, more than 3/4 of us have succumbed. 124 crew members and less than 30 remain. We're holed up in this derelict module, headed for command once we've rested. People say it's the most protected part of the station, but then people are scared. They're saying they can hear the Watcher's thoughts, that when you do, you get sick. I'm trying not to listen to them. Sam Cook. Again, we still don't know what gender that is, otherwise I'd purposely be affecting some kind of voice, because, well, one of my favorite delusions is that I like to think that I can do some vague voice acting or actual acting, so I very much plan to force all of you to listen to my terrible, terrible attempts. Alright, so it looks like there's a lot of clone creation, but not a lot of swapping. Okay, with a lot of crate movement. So it looks like what I'm gonna have to do... As far as I can tell, the answer involves, I'm basically going to have to, at some point, have someone, like, I'm going to have to be standing on one of these crates, because if I jump... Yeah, I can't quite make it out. Basically, as far as I can tell, the plan is to be standing on one of these crates, jump into this mist, create a clone, swap to the clone, drop onto this. Although, presumably, if I could get to the ceiling at all, it wouldn't matter, I could just walk. So, I guess it's a question of either, how do I jump enough to... Oh, no, I see. Maybe. This might be... Funnily enough, this might be something I tried with a, with the puzzle I was just recently having a lot of trouble with. Jump up onto the crate. I need to see if I can jump enough to swap to... Yep, there we go. That's something I kept trying to do in that really difficult room. Despite that having nothing to do with the answer, it was just I was throwing everything at the wall. Every clone, every brain cell I had. I thought you couldn't swap through that. Oh no, you can! It just auto-sets that off. That's interesting. I thought earlier I tested and you proved you couldn't swap through it. Odd. Very odd. My memory's going, apparently. But yeah, so it looks like all three of these are easier than the one I just did. Which... Thank God. I'd have been miserable if I had to do another one of those. Like, having to... I was so distraught when I had to pause the video and be like, alright, I'll be back in like 10 minutes. At 2 hours, I was already like, man, this is like longer than most of the rest of the game. And then, that was on Tuesday. Today's Friday. 4 switches... Oh, interesting, but I'm gonna have to figure out the order I walk onto them in. Okay, because if I just... Because I've got... How many clones? 4 clones, so 1 for each switch. Okay, so I need to end up standing on a switch, and the last clone just goes to the door. Okay. Alright, so let's pick a switch for me to go on to. Where I could reasonably hit all of these. Okay, I see. This is gonna be tough. Oh, because I can't end up on a switch. Alright, well, let's see what each one opens, and let's see how fast it opens them. Because if they go slowly... No, that's a fast switch. Yeah, that means I can't... It's not going to be walking through at some point. That will just absolutely flatten me. I know this because I tested it in that last room. I do kind of wish I could have. I wish my thing hadn't messed up and saved some of the footage of me getting so close to that stupid Enagon orb and then getting smashed in the bridges. Which again, I was glad to find out they had planned for. Oh yeah, you can absolutely smash yourself in there. Because I was a little worried that I was just going to glitch it and, you know, make it so it's like I'd just have to restart. Fortunately, they had the forethought to, hey, solid objects moving at high speeds. Kills your guy. Who knew? There's also the very interesting thing that your clones face the same direction as you, and even when they're backwards, move, like, if I press right on the keyboard, all your clones move right, as opposed to moving to their relative direction. Which is good, because it makes it a little more intuitive, but at the same time, it's a little odd, thinking of the telemetry. But there's also the interesting thing. I'm just going to do this whenever I want to talk for a bit. There's a very interesting thing where, oh shoot, I just lost my train of thought. Sorry, I actually distracted myself with this stupid, endless back and forth. Oh! During that really tough room, which I believe was called Abandoned Mining Outpost 7, something like that, during that whole segment, I was desperately wishing... I kept forgetting about the whole, if I move, they move. I kept thinking that, if they hold still, I get to move, or, the other way around. If I move, I can make them hold still. But, no, that's not how that happened. So, that might actually be a cool thing if there's ever a sequel for this, because that's a way to expand on it, and because that would be an extra puzzle element. But from the looks of it, I don't think this game is going to have a sequel or need one, frankly. It doesn't seem like the right kind of environment for that. Oh, I did that backwards. Up, and I dropped a clone. Yep, you walked through there. I did that, yeah, I did that in the wrong order. Let's try, because I would want them to walk forward. And by forward, I mean left. Try jumping over this. See if that does anything. Because this is going to be the hardest one, because when I try walking left, he's going to walk off the switch. Which is why I think I need to be on one of these switches. I'm just not sure how I would do that. Oh! Maybe I do? I might know how I do that. Let's see. Let's start with... The one thing I've learned is play with your entire environment. So, I've got all this. I may as well spawn some people around here. Shoot. Let's keep one of the... Whoops. I was actually about to say, let's keep one of the me's up there, and then I wasn't. Sorry, now that I've pointed it out, I can't help but notice this trick where if you look really carefully, you can actually kind of see where the line for where they've actually modeled out everything stops. So, like, you can kind of see that's where it stops, and it's just darkness, but it's so clever because, I mean, you don't need to see the rest of the area. It's great that they just implied what the rest of it is. I keep accidentally backing into these things, which is a problem I had in the really difficult room. I kept having the problem with, I would accidentally walk into these when I really didn't want to. Okay, so let's see. Alright, so I'm going to label you Switch 3. I'm going to label them 1 through 4, starting from the right. So this is Switch 3, and that's Switch 2. Okay, so there's 2 and 3. Reclaiming your clones is a little difficult sometimes. I do wish there was a way to just instantly get them back, but that would be an entire other puzzle mechanic. So again, more room for something down the line. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, and you're presumably 4? Yeah. What the? Oh, he must have gotten caught in that. That was... Wow. That's darkly hilarious. Alright, so... Let's try... spawning you as close to the wall as I can. Yeah, and as suspected, getting the doors open is not the difficult part. Figuring out how I get me in there, because now I'm not suffering from the problem of not enough clones, I'm suffering from the problem of I didn't plan this right. Because I can get to here, but as soon as... Let me guess. Yep! Alright, so full disclosure, I knew that was going to happen, I just wanted to show you guys getting smushed. For some reason, it's weirdly cathartic to kill yourself like that. It's just kind of funny to hear the little smush and then see your dangling self. Man, I'm bad people. Okay. I'm starting to think the puzzle has something to do with this area here. Which partially... I'm convinced that the lights exist to help solve the puzzles a bit. Oh! Well then. Oh, so that's another really cool and somewhat creepy detail I love. I love how, if your gravity is facing, in this case, up, when you fall up, you crumple up, your body stays stuck to the ceiling, and like your swapper even drops and falls up. And it's one of those things where it's so unsettling because it's just that little bit of off from the way things are supposed to work, and it just looks wrong as opposed to being like straight up creepy. Again, attention to detail makes this so much better. The amount of forethought that went into this, and like just the eye for, oh, hey, wouldn't it do this if that happened? And then, you're right, let's do that. In the case of the, like, you know, hey, wouldn't it fall upwards if you're supposed to be falling upwards? And like, yeah, you're right, let's have it fall upwards. Also, it occurs to me, I like how the last room... Was it the last room? The room... No, it wasn't the last room, it was... this puzzle one of the first ones we did this playthrough, I like how they actually highlighted the Anagon orb, not by having a spotlight on it the way they are right now, but they had it highlighted in darkness, and it was the only spot of darkness in the room. I thought that was cool. Also, I'm just now noticing that this thing has light shifting on it completely counter to the actual light sources in the room. I don't know. I would presume they've always been doing that, showing off that there's something, because they're obviously something semi-supernatural about them. They haven't been mentioned in any of the what is it? The journal entry type things, the memory terminals. That's what it is. They haven't been mentioned. They haven't mentioned what they're made out of or why they're important. It's just very surreal. Like, just go with it. And I'm curious if that's going to be a plot point, or if it's just one of those things where they're like, don't think too hard about it. Okay, so... I need to be on a switch. I don't see how I get onto a switch. Unless... The only thing I can think of is if I do that... and then I can absorb. Okay. Somewhat progress. I'll walk back a little bit, because I think I'm going to have to walk forward to pull this off. Oh, except we're once again at that little problem of... Oh, it's not so bad, actually. I think I can fix this. Yeah. I think I'm just gonna have to create this one last. Alright, so there's that. So, let's do this. I'm gonna gonna have to be walking left, so let's spawn that one first. Because whoops. Well, reset time. See, this is the only problem I have with not being able to claim your clones quickly, is when you have to reset, it's a little bit tedious. It's a little bit time-wasty. Yeah, I liked that. Let's start there. Except I started on the wrong side again. Wow. Obviously they put them located like that for a reason, but... I just noticed the timer. Alright, we'll come back to this in the next episode, and I will theoretically have this all figured out. I know I said that last time, but I mean it this time. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm on the edge of this one. This isn't such a total mental wall. Alright, I will see you on the next episode of Let's Dissect the Swapper.